Welcome to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. Join us every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Learn more about the Experience community at our website, local.theexperience.video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Experience is brought to you each week by these great sponsors. Present Gifting believes relationships are important. Moments matter. Join the early VIP access list at presentgifting.com. Jim Coleman Insurance. Personal and business lines of insurance. Call the office at 541-753-2500 and learn more online at jimcoleman.com. Capital Mortgage Source. Your trusted mortgage professional is just a click away. Learn more at capitalmortgagesource.com and call the office at 541-829-8042. Join Voice of Health in supporting Kicking Cancer, empowering individuals and their families to thrive in their cancer journey. Learn more at kicking-cancer.org. And now let's get on with the show. And here we are. Once you unmute yourself, Russ, we'll be able to hear all of the great stuff that you're saying.
Oh my goodness. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. It is so great to have y'all here, and it definitely helps even with the sound on. It sounds like I'm muted. So anyway, sorry for the lack of voice today, everyone, but I'm so happy to be here. I am showing up in spite of whatever is going on in my throat, and I'm just so thankful to be with y'all on The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. You know, it's just been following up with people from the PodFest conference that I was at, which was just a couple of weeks ago in Orlando, Florida. Met so many great people, and as Russ says, he's a connector for life. And it was great because, Russ, we were there together, and together we met so many people, and we'll be having a lot of those folks as guests here on this show coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited. So one thing I didn't tell you, Scott, that I've done in order to get through all the people because of my schedule as far as speaking to people, I am batching calls together. So today, when we get off, I've got like 5 calls every 15 minutes, like boom, 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 boom with people to actually have a short call with them, schedule them for a show, and then schedule another call later because it was the only way I could get within my time frame that I could get everybody, because it is booked all the way out into next month already. And people are saying, can I schedule any sooner? And I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, but it's been great. It really has been great. And also I have found, Scott, that there's some great prayer requests because some people had some unfortunate things happen when they left PodFest. And so great opportunities to pray for them. But I want you to know that, again, I'm a firm believer, everybody, that all things happen for the good for those that love the Lord. And so we pray for them. Know that there's better days ahead, even when you have struggles in life. And that's when you just, like with my throat, you just show up, right? You show up and good things are going to happen. So today, Scott, I'm excited. We have a great guest, James Gardner. We've had him before. Super excited to talk to him. But I want to remind everybody that we are on every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Texas Standard Time. Tell them more about how to get information on us, Scott.
We have a website set up, and it's local.theexperience.video. So, yep, it's not a .com or a .co or an .org. It is .video. Local.theexperience.video. Lots of E's in that. There you're going to find books that are written by Russ and I. You're going to find lots of shows like The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. The Experience Local on Monday, which is also broadcast on KYKN and KWIL in Oregon. You'll learn about Marketing with Russ, which is Mondays and Thursdays. Great conversations with experts from around the world. And Russ Reels, which is a panel discussion tomorrow night. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 here in Texas. And that is going to be talking about how to publish your book. If you haven't published, we encourage you to tune in. And then you can tune into the Waco Experience, an American story. And that is my radio show broadcast on KBBW here in Waco, Texas, and a podcast all over the world.
Amazing. And everything's available. You guys at local.theexperience.video. But if you want to go straight to our YouTube page and subscribe, which you should, if you haven't, why? Not because just Scott and I are such pretty faces. That's not the reason. You should subscribe because we're going on thousands of people on that website that have great value that you can connect with, and all the people in the comments of those shows. So you definitely want to go to YouTube and subscribe today to that. And that is super simple. The experience.video is all you type in. If you know the name of the show, you're in good shape, right, Scott?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, we have the most remarkable people on the planet. And I think we ought to demonstrate that right now.
I think so too. Just one more quick shout out to Jim Coleman State Farm, Capital Mortgage Source, who I met with yesterday, and Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, our sponsors for this episode or this month of The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. Also, if you notice at the bottom of this ad, not only the video options of LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, but also all the audio options. There's just a few of them listed. We are on most any audio platform that you would like to check out. So if you don't have time to watch, please listen. Please like, share, and comment wherever you are. So with that, let's get James in the room. Here he comes. Drum roll, please. Hi, James.
Hello, Russ and Scott. How are you guys?
And it's great to see you again. Thanks for joining us on The Experience.
Absolutely.
I completely forgot this morning to give you the drum roll and the applause. There we go. Now I feel like I've done my job. Now we can move forward. So James, tell us, who in the world is James Gardner? What are you up to? I mean, we know, but I mean, tell everybody else.
Well, James Gardner is retired. My wife and I are retired, and we live in West Caldwell, New Jersey. And what we've been doing for the last 5 years is we've been producing a podcast called Your History, Your Story. And I also have done some substitute teaching at a local elementary school, which I'm probably going to be returning to again this fall. But along with that, we're doing this podcast, which is really all about storytelling. We've interviewed all sorts of people, authors, and just people with great stories to tell, academics, as well as people with just really strong and personal stories to share that have impacted their lives and others. And so we've been doing that again for 5 years. We've got over, I don't know how many it is, maybe around 180 episodes, and we're enjoying it. We have a website, we have a blog that we've started not too long ago, last year, which we're enjoying. And with that, we have our family around us who we love very dearly, and we're supporting them as much as we can and being around them as much, and they support us. And that's it. We're just having a lot of flexibility in our lives, which helps us to sort of do some things that we never had a chance to do when I was working full time, and we were raising the family and everything. So
a lot of people, when they retire, they think, how did I get all this stuff done when I was working full time? A lot of people believe that their lives are just plain vanilla and not very interesting until you start asking questions. So tell us how you guys got started doing this and some of the highlights of stories that you've heard that were surprising.
That's a great question. Well, what happened was when COVID hit in 2020, I had just retired from full-time work in the fall of 2019. And over many years in my free time, which was in evenings and weekends, my wife and I would go around to different places like seniors facilities, libraries, uh, you know, groups like Lions Club and ladies clubs and things like that, talking about mostly American history and giving talks. My day job was finance and accounting for 40 years. So this was something that I loved to do in my free time. But that kind of, it got more difficult to do that because I had towards the end of my career, I had to do a lot of commuting. So we didn't do that so much. And then when I retired and then COVID hit, it was like, what are we going to do now? We can't do that. And some friends of ours recommended, hey, you like to ask people questions about their lives and their stories. Why don't you do a podcast? So that was, for us, that was like, oh, that sounds great. I've heard of podcasts before. We didn't know what that meant, what it entailed technically, logistically. How were we going to get guests? What were we going to talk about? What are we going to focus on? So it was a big learning curve. But my wife, Kelly, really handled the technical end and also the social media end. And she helped me she booked all the guests. I did a lot of the research, the reading, and the interviewing. And we've been a really, really good team for 5 years. And we've interviewed so many interesting people. When I was on your show a while back, I forget who I might have showcased, but there's several recently that we've interviewed who've been very interesting. One of them was a man named Buell Frazier. He was 19 years old, I believe, when he drove Lee Harvey Oswald to work, the book depository in Dallas, Texas. He was a co-worker who trained Lee Harvey Oswald. And he initially, it was thought that he might have been involved. He was questioned and everything like that. But he's a wonderful man. Obviously, he was exonerated from anything. He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Wonderful man. We've been in touch since. He wrote a book. And he's just a nice person we've connected with. We've also spoken, recently I spoke to a Dr. Todd Goldberg, who actually went to high school with, but he is a gerontologist, and he spoke to us in a podcast about Alzheimer's and aging and how that affects both the patient and the caregivers. And then we just released an episode with James M. McPherson, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning author of a Civil War historian. And he talked about what motivated both Confederate and Union soldiers to fight in the Civil War, what brought them into it, and what motivated them to continue fighting. So that was a really good book. We've also interviewed one of the Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz. That was a way back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. We were, that was one of our earlier ones, and she was a wonderful lady. And then not too long ago, we interviewed a man named John Luckadoo, who was a B-17 bomber pilot during World War II, part of the Bloody Hundredth, they called it. And he flew 25 missions over enemy-occupied Europe. We interviewed him actually a few times, and he was delightful. He lived to be 103. Sadly, he passed away last September, but we were honored to be able to speak with him. So that's just a smattering. There were so many fascinating people.
Wow. I'm going to ask the question that everybody wants to know. What's the link to the podcast? Because we want to get that, because my beautiful wife, I've got to send it to her. She loves history.
Yes. Well, you can go right to our website, which is www.yourhistoryyourstory.com. You can access our episodes there, as well as our blog there. And you can find actually on Apple or Spotify, any of your major platforms. It's just Your History, Your Story. Okay, no commas. And you can also find us on Facebook.
That's great. That
Yeah.
is so great. We'll get that in the comments to make sure everybody can get to your history, your story, and make sure and get that information because that is awesome. I think the opportunity to interview so many amazing people, especially Munchkins from the Wizard of Oz. Oh my goodness, that's my favorite already. Um, when you when you were young, was history always uh, really interesting to you? Have you always been a history buff?
Yes, I have as far back as I can remember. As a matter of fact, my daughter and I were just digitalizing some old slides. I don't know if your parents took slides back when you were a kid, but that was a big thing back in the early to mid 60s. So we had those. And there were pictures of me with my brother. I was only like 3 years old at up in Lake George. I think it was Fort Ticonderoga. And we were up there. My mom and dad always took us on a summer vacation down the shore and then another trip that was usually historic. We went to Gettysburg, we went to Washington, D.C., we went to Williamsburg, we went up to Lake George. And it was always something about it. I was always interested in the forts and the soldiers and the battles part. And I majored undergraduate in history. It was always my favorite subject. And to be honest with you, the transformation I made was from just the battles and the soldiers to everyday life. Just, people talking about their stories, their great grandparents, when they came to this country, or their father who was in Korean War, or World War II, and things like that. I started getting more interested in just personal stories instead of just battles and the political side of things, although that interested me as well as a framework. But I'm more interested in what were people like? What did they do? What did they think? And that's what's already really fanned the flames of my interest in history and kept it alive. I'm 67 and I'm as passionate about history as I was as a little kid. I just love it.
I think I've always been a big fan of history, especially for me, ancient history. But even looking at the 19th century, so I did an audiobook a while back that I called Threnody, but that was the name of a poem by Josiah Gilbert Holland, J.G. Holland. And the reason I did it is because I just wanted to share his poems out. I happened to have a copy of it. But to me, it was in the world of AI, and I will just say, in general, the advances in technology, there is a baseline that remains the same, and that is the human condition. And so whether you're looking at the 90s, the 70s, the 1870s, the year 500, it doesn't matter. People and their needs have not changed. Right. And so I entitled this Threnody 19th Century Sensibility Proves People Have Not Changed.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's absolutely right. And people are people. And you try to place yourself in their position, what they might have been thinking when they were faced with certain things. I mean, it's interesting you brought that up because when we were looking through these old slides, they came across these pictures, and they were from October of 1962. And I sent the picture to my brother, and I said, you know what just occurred to me? Here we are smiling in this picture with our parents. That was around the same time that the Cuban Missile Crisis was going on. And I said to him, I'm thinking to myself, what was going through our parents' minds then about being afraid for your kids, being afraid for yourselves? That was over 60 years ago. And, these were people worried about their home and their family, and they didn't know what was going to happen. And that was my family. And I'm thinking about all the others. I was fortunately young enough, I was oblivious to it. But my brother said he used to lie awake night worrying for that week or two or whatever that period of time was, that we were going to have a nuclear war that was going to, end everything. And I just think that just thinking back of ordinary people facing really big, big things, and then the little small parts of life, like how do you survive every day?
Yeah.
Eating, for instance.
Well, that's always a good question too. And it's interesting you bring that up about when I was a kid, all I saw on the news every night was the Vietnam War.
Mm.
And so I thought for sure I was going to have to go because they had the draft then until thank goodness I got old enough to go.
Mhm.
And but it was yeah, worries and concerns as a child looking at that. And but it was an important part of history too. My mama was always big on saying, you need to watch this. This is history in the making.
Mm.
And she would have us watch the NASA space launches. She had us watch the 1980 USA hockey team
Mhm.
playing. She had us watch Watergate back when that happened.
Mhm.
She had us watch all these things that really weren't that exciting to me at the time. I mean, the hockey was, but everything else was kind of like, eh. But it was big deals, and I can think back to actually seeing those happen. But the
Mhm.
war part was difficult. But there's so much history that goes into that. My question for you too is being a history buff, what is your favorite era of history? What is your favorite thing you love to look at?
It's changed a little bit back and forth, and then sometimes I'll see something on TV or somebody posts something about some era in history, and I get fascinated with it. Um, I think for the longest time, the American Revolution was my favorite. I when I was probably in first or second grade, I live in New Jersey, and we're not far from a place called Morristown, New Jersey, and it was where George Washington's troops had been encamped there on two separate winters, actually. And you can go down there now and visit where his headquarters was. It's still there. It's called the Ford Mansion, and I remember being brought there as a kid, and I was given like $2 to buy a souvenir or something. Maybe it was even $1 back then. And I bought a little picture of the inside of the Ford Mansion. And there was something about that era and picturing the soldiers and the campfires going and the tricorn hats and the red coats and then thinking about Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas night of 1776. That just had a special fascination for me. But then I got kind of crazy into the Civil War when I got a little bit older. And on my 30th birthday, my wife had a big party for me. And people asked, "What's James interested in?" Kelly said, "The Civil War, and he likes lighthouses." Well, it was a big party. I ended up with about 12 books on the Civil War and all these little miniature lighthouses. But I have most of those books and some of those lighthouses. I loved the Ken Burns documentary on the Civil War.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, I watched part of it last night. I know he's done a new one on the American Revolution, which I have not finished watching yet, but that helped him. I went to Gettysburg, and my great grandfather fought in the war, and I sent away for his pension papers. So I got very interested in that. But now I almost can't nail myself down. There's so many. The Gilded Age is fascination to me. I'm very interested in the Gilded Age.
I was doing some research. It was a couple years back, and it was really, and it had to do with this with Holland's book, because this was just his book was published just after the Civil War.
Mhm.
But I was really looking, what were the events that led up to the Civil War? And it was really the Mexican-American War, where a lot of those Civil War leaders on both sides were fighting side by side.
That is correct. As a matter of fact, there's I don't know if I don't know if it's actually documented or anecdotal, but I recall a story that when Lee was surrendering to Grant at Appomattox, that Grant said to Lee, because they both fought in the Mexican War together,
Hmm.
and Grant said to Lee, "Oh, I remember you from the war. Do you remember blah blah blah?" And then Lee said, "I'm sorry, I don't remember you." Yeah, there was a lot. It was a training ground of the leadership on both sides, really,
Right. Yeah.
during the Civil War. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just fascinating when you go back and you start looking at this, and then, um, as you said, there's a theologian, R.C. Sproul, and he says he was talking about how you read the Bible. He says you need to read it existentially. That
Mhm.
is, these people were in existence; they lived, and his example is Abraham being asked to sacrifice his son Isaac, and you turn the page and it says, and Abraham got up early in the morning. And he goes, and it wasn't because he was all excited about carrying out God's work. He said he got up early in the morning because he didn't sleep all night. He's rolling around worrying, right? And you start thinking about these stories like Lee and Grant. They were real, they were real people. They led real lives, and it was like he probably didn't know who Grant was. He's like, yeah, boy, I don't know.
Didn't
Sorry, name is gone, right?
he knew who he was then, though.
Yeah, well, at that point,
Obviously.
for sure. Well, James, you know what? Wow. We're going to have to do another episode because we could talk to you
Always.
forever. This is so interesting, but it's time for me to
10,000
be
years
the
of human history to
responsible host.
cover. So,
Yeah, it's time for me to be the responsible host and start wrapping things up. So give us from today your gold nugget, what you really want people to remember from today's show. Also, make sure you tell everybody how they get in touch with you, how they tune into your podcast again, and all that.
I think again, we've talked about it a little bit here, but everybody has a story to tell. So you may think, I'm just an ordinary person, or I don't really have a story. But I think the fact is you do. And you can think about things that happened to you, things that you experienced. You may not have written a book, you may not have been in a movie, you may not have been in a school play even, but you have a story. You have a grandparent who told you something as you sat on their knee or sat around their feet in front of the fireplace. You have a story to tell. I think it's very important for families to sit around the dinner table and talk about the past, about people you knew. And my kids, they loved it. Maybe sometimes I was boring them and I didn't know, but they enjoyed it. And they often ask me today about it. My grandkids are asking me about it today. So I think people to think about your stories, also read history so you understand the larger stage that your family lived in the past and how they interacted with that. And then as far as anything going forward, Kelly and I are doing a little pivoting. We are going to be stepping away from we started a new season. We have several more episodes to go. We're going to step away from the podcast for a little bit, and we're going to be focusing in on family, some more family. We have a new grandson. He was born, which was a great joy, on December 4th. Unfortunately, it was a sad day. We lost our dear dog of 10 years on the same day. It was an emotional rush, but he's got a cleft lip and palate. He's as sweet as can be. He's going to have a couple little surgeries, so we want to help support that a little bit, and the rest of our family. And we are going to be continuing to write our blog, which is on our website. We've got some pretty cool stories that we've written. And I'm working on a book about a infamous ancestor of mine who was a bare knuckle fighter by the name of Orville Gardner, who actually, he was a pretty bad guy, very bad guy, who ended up becoming a Christian evangelist. And
Wow.
he had a changed life, and he advocated for temperance and really how to help people get out of tough situations and addiction and just help each other. And it's just a great story. So we're going to be working on that. And so we're pretty excited about it, Kelly and I.
well, James, when that book is ready to be published and available on Amazon, let me know, and we will go live and do an interview on Amazon and promote it there as well.
Well, that's great. And you can reach us on, as I mentioned, yourhistoryyourstory.com. And my email is yhyspodcast russ@gmail.com. And again, you can find our podcast out on Spotify, Apple, any of the regular top platforms.
Awesome. So good. So good. Well, listen, James, we'll definitely schedule to have you back. And thank you so much for being such a blessing to us and all of our community. And today, everybody, make sure and tune in. All of the connection information is clickable in the comments and the show notes. Don't have to remember it. Just go straight to James and connect with him today. Check out his blog. Check out his podcast. It's so great. And even with James stepping away, there's all of those amazing episodes. So forget about binging Netflix. Binge your story. I mean, space what it is. Your history, your story. There you go. .com. So anyway, James, we're going to send you to the green room and say goodbye here, but hang tight for just a sec. All right.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
See you, James.
Thank you.
Fascinating stories. Yeah.
I love that guy. It's just amazing stuff. So I was texting my beautiful wife during the show to make sure she checks out that podcast because that is right up her alley. So anyway.
Well, I would be surprised if there was a librarian that is not fascinated by history.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. She loves history. Loves history for sure.
Well, I want to say thank you to all the guests that joined us in the comments today. We sure appreciate that, and people that share it out so that others can hear great stories like James Garner and your story, your history.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Don't forget to join us next week, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Texas Standard Time. If you missed this episode and you're just tuning in now, you can go back and watch it forever on LinkedIn and YouTube and 30 days on Facebook. Also, it converts to audio podcasts. You can listen on any of the major audio podcast platforms, so please check that out. And we're just so thankful that you're here because without you, we have no show. So thank you for that. And Scott, anything else before we get out of here today?
Russ, always great to hang out with you. I enjoyed being with you live and in person there in Orlando at PodFest, but grateful we get to do the Experience Local every Monday and the Experience every Wednesday, and I get to hang out with you occasionally like tomorrow night on Russ Reels.
Please join us, everybody, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Russ Reels Live. Everybody has a story. It's about writing your book that you need to write if you have not done it yet, and you're going to have great authors, including the New York Times bestseller tomorrow night, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. With that, we're going to say goodbye for today. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you. Have a blessed rest of your week. See ya. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.